This happy and fun music mashup beatboxing game has a dark, sinister secret behind the guise of happiness and fun, where we learn the eerie and ominous secret that majority of these characters are dead and killed in a variety of ways, being in a haunting, nightmarish horror version of this colorful, fun world. Hi folks, I'm R, your narrator. This game seems to have been flying under my radar for a long time, with now being the right time to finally cover it. Sprunki is a fan-made beatboxing mashup game inspired by the original Incredibox game. Here we have 20 different characters who each make a unique sound. We can use these characters up to 7 at a time to create our own custom music. But there is a horrifying secret hidden within these characters, which we can only unveil when using the last character known as Black. Sprunki seems to be heavily inspired by the cartoon called Happy Tree Friends, which is very deceiving at first, as it appears to be intended for children, but it slowly devolves into violence and brutality, with the characters always dying in horrible ways. This will be the same case for the characters in Sprunki when we switch to the horror mode. The very first character that we can use is Orange, who is canonically called Arin. Arin is an orange character making beats and someone who has been confirmed canonically to be dating a character known as Pinky. Arin likes bunnies, which makes sense as Pinky is a bunny herself. Arin also enjoys skateboarding, which is a little strange and bizarre as he doesn't have any legs. Arin's other hobby is listening to music through his headphones, which we can visibly see worn by him, and the character known as Simon appears to be his best friend. Now switching to the horror mode, Arin seems to have bleeding eyes while having a traumatized expression. His ribcage is opened while his beating heart makes the sound for the mashup beatbox. The horror mode can be accessed when the character known as Black is chosen, who has a demonic face and transforms the happy place into a nightmare. Arin clearly seems to have been tormented and killed, and now he looks as if he is there against his own will, just to play the beat and perform whatever action is demanded of him. He seems to be resurrected and possessed. The second character in line is the red character known as Ratty. He is red, having 5 prominent spikes or horns on his head. He has a tired and unapproachable expression, being another beats maker just like Arin. Ratty is into sports and enjoys exercising, but he has a high-tempered personality. He is very bad-tempered and gets easily angry, which resulted in him being lonely and not being very approachable. His horror form shows a tragic death, which has been confirmed to have been the most painful death of all the other Sprunkis. He is missing half the flesh on his face, with his lower part missing. His corpse has been put on display as if showing him to others as some sort of deterrence. As he is described as the angry Sprunky, whoever decided to attack and kill the Sprunkis could have found Ratty challenging to take down, hence why they made his death the worst. His beat changes in the horror mode, being more haunting and scary with a deep bass and echo. Moving down the list, we meet the silver character known as Clucker. Just like the previous 2 characters, he is a beatmaker, having a cymbal on his head and accordingly making cymbal sounds. The cymbal moves around when he makes his beats. Clucker has been confirmed to have built 2 of the robotic characters with the help of another character known as Garnold. The characters he made are Funbot and Mr. Fun Computer. This is in fact one of his hobbies, which is making things. The symbol on his head is not permanently attached to him, as he can easily easily take it off. In the horror mode, he makes a deep tapping sound with haunting echoes. His head has been crushed with the symbol on his head by a mysterious character who seems to have been the same person or one of many who butchered all the other characters. The horror mode shows his eyes being bloodshot and blood dripping, with half of his head being missing, with the symbol banging against what remains of his head. The antenna above his head seems longer in the horror mode, which means that the antenna runs deep into his body, maybe even being connected to his spinal cord. Moving on to the next character called Funbot, one of Clucker's creations, we can see that it is a happy robot being also a beatmaker. Funbot has blue digital eyes on a display or a visor, which exclusively shows his eyes. He has another digital display which shows the movement of his mouth. In the horror mode, his beat remains more or less the same, just being faster. He seems to be one of the survivors in the horror mode, being spared or escaping whoever attacked the Sprunkies. He, alongside Gray, Wenda, Pinky, Javan, Broad, and Mr. Fun Computer survive, but he happens to be one of the only characters who didn't sustain any injuries or damage. The others who remain uninjured are Gray and Javan only. Despite surviving, his everlasting smile turns upside down into a frown, most likely because of witnessing the horror in the aftermath of the attack and seeing his friends and companions being so brutally attacked, injured, and killed. Finally, in the beat-making group, we meet Veneria, the green and earthly character. Veneria has a dark green horn and flowering vines on her head, which are meant to resemble hair. She doesn't seem to have any hair, with an art piece portraying her picking up the vine pile, which she uses as a wig. She enjoys gardening as a hobby and seems to be an environmentalist type of character, caring for the earth. Her horror form is possibly one of the most disturbing, with plants sprouting through her eyes, poking out and through her eyeballs. Her eyes start bleeding and she seems to be screaming in pain. It's not clear how she suffered this problem. Whatever it is, it seems as if she became infected with some sort of disease to get into such a condition. Moving on to the effects category, we first meet Gray, who accordingly is a gray character. He has cat-like features and makes a low kind of effect. He and Wenda look similar but are not related, and very recently it has been made canon that Wenda dislikes him. In the horror mode, he happens to be one of the survivors with no injuries. It has been confirmed that this is due to his agile abilities, being able to hide very effectively and not being a victim in this mysterious attack. His ears can be seen drooping and his expression seems lost and distant, even though he is barely seen smiling. The next character in the effects category is Broad, who is a brown character. He has a bucket over his head and makes a funky effect. Broad is a derpy character, being confirmed to be slow. He eats moss when he is alone, as in the presence of others they prevent him from doing so, and he seems to really enjoy eating moss. Broad can talk, but he doesn't make full sentences and can be unintelligible. His understanding is also limited, but someone who understands colors and sympathy. In the horror mode, a chunk of his head alongside the bucket is missing, which has been confirmed to have been bitten off by Simon, who becomes a possessed hostile being. Despite these massive and lethal injuries, Broad seems to be alive and still making sound effects, and he still has the same unaffected expression. The next character in the list is Garnold. Garnold, despite looking like a robot, is in fact living, who has a visor on his face. He and Clucker are the ones who created Funbot, who happens to have the same visor as him. Therefore, the display that we see on Funbot is in fact a visor showing his eyes. In the horror mode, Garnold visor breaks, creating a hole which reveals his right eye. His eyes seem to be injured as blood can be seen trickling down. He wears a mechanical suit which spring locks, crushing him inside and subsequently killing him. Therefore, despite not having such severe injuries like the other Sprunkies, he unfortunately didn't survive the attack. Next in line in the same class to effects is Owax CK, which is a lime-colored character. He has a frazzled expression with his pupils having different sizes, which in some way indicates a disturbed and out of balance mind. He has spiky hair, and when beatboxing, he makes a bizarre expression. He was released or escaped from a mental asylum, which depicts his mental instability and hence his expression. Ratty, the angry character, once hit him really hard with a hammer over his head, which might explain his frazzled expression. In his horror form, he has injuries to his torso and face, missing parts of his body, yet having the same frazzled expression, depicting how the injuries and the attack didn't really affect him that much psychologically, unlike many other characters who became traumatized or horrified. One character he might be similar to is Brud, who also didn't seem to change much after the attack and getting injured. Next character is a cyan-colored Sprunky who is called Sky. Sky has round ears and a single strand of hair. Sky is the only character who is under 18 years old, unlike the rest of the characters. It has been confirmed Sky is 14 years old. He enjoys collecting teddy bears and possibly playing with them. In the horror mode, we can see he had one of the worst deaths, with several poles or rods being used to take his life. Moving on to the melody section, the first character we meet is Mr. Sun. His sound is a chord and a nice happy melody in the normal mode. He appears as a cartoony sun with 8 orange spikes representing the sun flares. He has a happy, smiling expression. Despite looking small in the game, he happens to be the largest character, maybe the same size as the sun in the sky. It is canon that Mr. Sun doesn't have a gender despite being called Mr., so anything could go. For all we know, we could call him Miss Sun, but that might make it confusing and make people confuse it with a different character. In the horror mode, Mr. Sun loses his face and becomes a giant eyeball with flares. Just imagine seeing the sun in the sky with a giant staring eye. As this character is not living, it doesn't die, it just is abnormal. His happy melody in the horror mode becomes a haunting and a scary one. Next on the list in the same category is Durple, who is a purple character. Durple is a purple dragon with 2 long dark purple horns on his head and 2 dark purple fin-like shaped ears on both sides of his head. Durple is friends with Simon, and despite being a dragon, he can neither breathe fire or fly. He likes to collect things and plays the trumpet. In the horror mode, he has a calm and disturbed, even maybe traumatized expression, with his mouth stretching to an abnormal size, which has made it into a popular theory that his jaw has been dislocated. Despite being a living being, he has been described as an abnormal, just like Mr. Sun, Mr. Tree, and Simon. Next character is a literal vibrant tree with a happy face called Mr. Tree. He seems to be happy and enjoying life and nature. Mr. Tree speaks like a creaking door and happens to be the second largest character in the game, being the size of an actual tree, being 50 years old. In the horror mode, we can see it becoming grayscaled and having a missing woman poster nailed on it. This mysterious woman is unknown and not much is known about the attackers and what happened. But according to this, we can tell whatever happened didn't just happen to the Sprunky characters, but the entire world that they live in, as a human woman seemingly also went missing with people looking for her. Next in the melodies category is Simon, the yellow character. He forms a smile on his face and has a calm and collected expression. Simon and Arin, despite looking similar, are not related, but they are good friends. He happens to be one of the fastest runners among all the Sprunkies, along with Ratty. In his horror form, he forms large teeth, having an out-of-control fidgeting demeanor, which might suggest that he has become possessed or has caught some sort of disease. He is the one who bites Brud, who sustains his injuries. The last character in the melodies category is Tanner, who wears a fedora. Tanner has tan skin, having a calm expression. He has 4 ears, 2 on each side, which are pointed down with the fedora holding them in place. His melody is whistling, with the horror mode becoming a haunting and echoed whistle. He has scales but isn't an animal like many of the other characters. He's a great person who protects people, especially the ones who are vulnerable. Tanner also owns a revolver, which he probably uses as a way to protect others. As a matter of fact, Tanner is a sheriff, becoming one to uphold justice and protect the vulnerable, who happens to take daily showers as well and rarely smokes, knowing it's not good for him. In the horror mode, we can find one single bullet hole in his head, which is confirmed to be under the hands of another character called Wenda, who stole his revolver and used it against him.
Hello, would you like to have some fun with us right now? Come on, go sing along with us in this fun time.
Moving on to the vocals, the first character we meet is Mr. Fun Computer, who is a singing robot computer. This piece of machinery was built by Clucker and Funbot, who did a great job. He happens to be the smallest character in the game, being the size of a monitor or computer. Somehow, it has been confirmed that the computer is more than 18 years old, yet having the personality and demeanor of a kid. He is one of the survivors who is also an abnormal. The horror mode of Mr. Fun Computer sings a horrifying tune about running and hiding.
Something is wrong, they are all dead, they are not real. Run, you cannot hide, you are not safe. Run away, run.
Moving on to Wenda, she is a white cat who says hey in her vocals, which sounds more like barks, at least to me. Wenda does occasionally purr, but it is very rare to catch her do it. Wenda seemingly uses a knife, and she is the one using Tanner's gun to shoot him dead in the horror mode. In her horror form, she has widened eyes and a psychotic smile and expression. It's not clear what happened to her and why she became as such to go killing, but it might be due to an outbreak possessing or infecting many to become hostile. Moving on to Pinky, just like her name, she is a pink bunny. She has a beautiful voice when singing, which becomes distorted and haunting when in the horror mode. She is Arin's girlfriend, with Arin being the one who spilled the beans and confessed to their relationship publicly. She happens to have a very kind and soft personality. In her horror mode, her teeth are knocked off and broken, with her jaw broken as well seemingly, and parts of her face missing. Despite these severe injuries, she is still alive. Moving on to Javan, he is a blue character with a blue hoodie or robe, who has a tired expression. In the horror mode, he happens to be one of the only characters to survive without injuries, and even more rarely, he doesn't seem to be affected or possessed to become hostile and happens to be on the good side, despite his ominous look. And finally, the last character is Black, who is the reason we switch into the nightmarish horror mode. Choosing him, the vibrant, colorful world of Sprunki transforms into a dark, nightmare-fueled place with eyes in the sky watching us. He is pitch black and ambiguous, who has a distorted human-like face that is heavily shadowed. Black seems to be behind all of the mishaps, causing the outbreak and the devastation caused on all the characters, making some become hostile and some become the victims, while some manage to survive. It's unclear if any outsider or stranger attacked the Sprunkies, or if the infected and possessed Sprunkies attacked each other only. Most likely, whatever Black did caused some to become psychotic and attack the other characters. Some managed to hide, some managed to survive despite the injuries, and some unfortunately died. That is why Mr. Fun Computer sings the song of running and hiding. And that is it for this video, folks. What are your thoughts and theories about the game and the characters, and what really happened to all of them? Let me know down in the comments below. As always, it's been your host Star. Thanks for being here, and I will see you on the next one. Have a fantastic day.